So we've all heard funny stories about how women from just after their wedding day change and try to be the commanding force of the relationship with their husband and eventually beat the bloke down,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
We've all heard
Yeah.
these stories.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now we can begin to see this in real time,
Mm.
but this time it's not so funny. I've published the Be Careful What You Wish For notices.
Mm.
We've warned that politicians changing parties on a whim are like leopards. They never change their spots. They just
Yes.
change the colour of their rosettes
Yes.
until they get elected, of course.
Mm.
It seems that Nadine Dorries is doing just that. After her second political marriage, this time to the Reform Party, it looks like she's having trouble of forgetting about her first love.
All right. Okay.
The one that, although did not take away her political virginity, it was the one she married to,
Okay.
the Conservative Party. She hasn't she hasn't even warmed up to the marital bed with the Reform Party, and she's already on about threesomes.
Oh, it's
Yes,
gonna. Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
Yes. Yes.
just shows what some people are like. Doris hasn't even been a member of Reform a week, and already she's saying the self-exposing "I am a true blue Tory" out loud. She suggested that Farage opens the door for serial liar Boris Johnson to enter into the Reform fold. That's where the threesome comes in.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. She said without thinking that the two biggest egos in political Britain would be unbeatable. I bet they would, love.
Yeah.
Forgetting that Johnson is such a rug puller, he puts Ali Baba to shame. Farage will need to find a way to keep Doris quiet, which is no mean feat when it deals with women and silence in the same sentence. Because if he can't, he'll find one conservative female trying to oust him from his leadership position to try and Theresa May things up for Reform. So is she a covert agent for the Conservative Party? Or not so covert, as the case may be? But was she sent by the Blues to try and start the rot of the Reform Party from the inside? And just to put the final nail in the coffin for the Reform Party, I'm sure it's the mistake made by Nigel Farage speaking during an interview on the BBC programme
Yeah.
Sunday.
Okay.
I don't know if you caught this. He said that other Conservative politicians which held cabinet positions will join the Reform Party, which is so wrong on so many levels. Firstly, the Conservatives were voted out of office in disgrace.
Mm.
So we can look at David Cameron, who turned his back on the country because he lost the Brexit vote,
Yeah.
and Boris Johnson way-haying it up during the COVID times and lying. And we shouldn't mention Lettucehead, right?
Yeah.
So, uh, it's wrong that he said this because basically is what he's going to say. What he said is that Reform is going to be start parachuting people into the top jobs with that will frustrate many Reform
Mm.
politicians who thought they might have had a chance for a top job themselves. So there's going to be an awful lot of backbiting within the ranks.
Yeah.
He's also saying that he doesn't have anybody, he doesn't have a good enough MP to hold a cabinet position. So basically, he's saying that the MPs that are going to get elected are shit. They're not
Oh,
worthy of it.
okay.
Basically, that's what he's saying. And I fear it could be even cause to split in the Reform Party before it even gets going. Now, this last bit about Farage and what he said on this program Sunday, it was an article,
Yeah.
and I looked at the responses in the
Mm.
by the readers, and 100% said they're taking themselves away from Reform for even him thinking this.
Yeah.
They said they're not going to they're going to renounce their membership and They're not going to vote Reform. They were going to, but they won't now because it's just like being, like I said, you're just going to get the same old thing, the same old crap, but from by the same old people, just
Mm,
wearing a different coloured rosette. And I heard just to wind this up
mm.
and wind you up, I
Well, I don't
suppose.
want about it. Yeah.
That apparently Farage he used to be one for wanting to disband the House of Lords,
Mm,
or at least give a heavy reform to thin the numbers down in the House of Lords, and now he's wanting the right to suggest people for the House of Lords to put them in the House of Lords. So if it looks like Farage is making a rod for his own back, and if he goes too conservative
mm.
with a large C, is going to lose out because the last conservative lot, which basically is what he's going to be farming from.
Yeah.
They were voted, they were humiliated for being absolutely inept. But I digress. Off you go. Get, get your laughing tackle around that.
Well, yeah, I mean, the fact they've put images of Nadine, Dorries, and Nigel Farage, and Boris Johnson in a in a situation, please don't. I don't appreciate that at all. Yeah.
They'll be using a lot of fiery Jack.
Yeah. Well, please, yeah, yeah. Right. Calm down, listeners. Yeah, yeah. It's a please, yeah. No, I'm not going to pass the joke on that one. The um okay, if I'm unpacking, look, I watched an interview. Well, I watched a Jacob Rees-Moggs um podcast yesterday. I don't watch religiously. You probably watch more things about these things than I do. I do just happen to be there, and his daughter, he's I don't know if she's 20 or I didn't do research on her, and obviously she was speaking, and she has joined Reform. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
But she did work experience with them. Now, I think it's the mark of the man that he hasn't sort of forced her one way or another. And a bit like I am with my daughter, quite liberal enough to say, well, you go and find out for yourself, girl. Yeah. Um, Either that or,
Rees-Mogg, he said that he wouldn't join Reform, but
yeah,
if they needed him as an advisor
yeah.
after they were elected, then he would help them out that way.
Well, he's even said he would still give Keir Starmer his ear and advice as well. He is. I think Rees-Mogg is a decent guy. I know people have a go at him because they say he's upper craft caste and upper. I don't think not in the traditional sense like this. He plays on it. He jokes about it, but yeah,
Of course.
he's an intelligent guy. Yeah, he's not a hooray Henry. he's he's got some.
Really?
Yeah. um, but yeah, yeah. I'm going to start off class war here. Yeah, it is it's a funny thing at the moment. I mean, okay, I'm going to say this about Farage. I think he's an excellent campaigner. Yeah,
Yep.
he's
Without
not
doubt.
an unintelligent guy. Um, I do think he's still the halfway house between rebel and establishment. Yeah. Because he's been around the establishment for so long, he knows how to play them. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've heard these different excuses. Now, this thing about um, Nadine Dorries joining, I must admit, I was scratching my head about that. Um,
Well, what wasn't surprising, Mark, was the reason she gave. And it wasn't because Reform have got interesting proposals.
yeah.
It's because she said the Conservative Party is dead.
Well,
And
uh,
so that to me is like a rat jumping from a sinking ship and clinging onto a lifeboat of reform just to keep the ball rolling.
well, um, I mean, you could argue she's told the truth. What a lot of us are thinking. Thanks for your service for 100 or so years, but yeah, you've managed to run out of steam, as it were. Yeah, the you
Yeah, but
say
she was
boat.
one of them. She was one of them.
Yeah, she's
until she was voted out, but she
Yeah,
was one of them.
yeah, I know, and
They,
I look, I do think that that I think there's going to be a general election sooner rather than later in the UK. And this is probably where we disagree as to the timetabling of when. I'm not normally wrong, but um, I thought before the end of the year. I think that's a bit too generous. I think possibly early next year. We'll see what happens in the October. Um,
autumn statement should be enough.
yeah, well, I was going to say it, but we'll see what happens on that. I mean, do people want to go voting in November? Hopefully, they'll have a bit more time to put things together. I do think that Farage, despite his saying 2027, I think he's trying to prepare for an early one. Um, I think the way that Nigel Rees-Mogg on this interview yesterday put it into perspective, and believe me, he annoys me a bit because he's good. He's good at, like you say, he's a very experienced man. He should be the guy leading the Tories if they need a
Yeah,
sensible
yeah,
Tory.
yeah.
I've got nothing against Badenoch. I think she's a nice person and not unintelligent either. Um, the trouble is, yeah, he could probably unite the Tories in a way that others can't. Now, I'm looking at this objectively. Yes, there is probably an argument if we don't want another Labour or even the new party by Corbyn. It wouldn't be impossible to think that they might actually swing a minority government themselves. Yeah. Um, on the right, it's so split. Now, I'm looking objectively. I'm taking myself out, whatever my own personal views and opinions are about stances and everything else. I'm elevating myself above it. I think the Labour movement are suffering the same. I'm changing your thrust slightly on this, but I'm looking at everything. The Labour Party has start going through the same process as the Conservative Party with their die-hard people, and Corbyn is going to look attractive to them. And Corbyn's a great campaigner as well. Let's make no doubts about it, and probably quite genuine in some ways, like Farage is and what they believe and say. Total
Yeah,
polar opposites in many ways, but
yeah.
very genuine. At least you know what you're getting with them. Yeah. If you're voting one way or another. Now, I think Farage is trying to play statesman. He's trying to, if you like, bring in for support um, disaffected Tory voters by saying, well, we're almost a Tory party, but we're not there really. Yeah. But we're open to all. So it is a little, it's trying to play possibly the old conservative thing. We're a party for all. Yeah. Um, where that's probably not the right move to do at the moment. Um, I, to me, he's bringing in these heavy rock weights, if you understand what I mean by that, who are probably not corrupt, have probably got one or two wild views. Like you said, he's got to be able to control them, and that is going to be the big problem he's going to have. Um,
As I as I understand it, Reform, they're getting their new members from the Labour
mm,
side
yeah,
and also the younger voter.
yeah,
So I don't think there are that many old Tories that
mm,
are going to turn to Reform because once you're an old Tory, you're an old Tory.
well, that's
With
it.
great deal of difficulty, you're going to vote into something that is not a conservative
Well,
because it's just not cricket.
mm,
So drafting in an awful lot of these former heads of state or former cabinet ministers because they have experience is
mm.
just going to drag the whole thing down to what it used to be when they were voted out in the
well,
first place.
again, this is a circle of it all, and I hope he's got a strategy. I mean, when we're saying reform's split, reform's going through its teething problems at the moment, and you could argue that Advanced UK is another wing of reform, and
Yeah.
what's the other one that's just recently started? I'm just trying to think of it. There's another one that's starting. Um, that's disregarding Reclaim and others and the Heritage Party, where they're all sort of, and this is what Rees-Mogg was making the point of, they're all in about the same place. Um, Farage is going to have a battle. And I think this is where Rees-Mogg is right. Overall, the current Labour administration, doesn't have a mandate from the people.
No, of course not.
Um, and so this is why they're probably trying to push through their agenda as quickly as possible, because I know it's limited time. Um, it's
I think the way that Farage should have gone
mm,
before he said all this on Sunday
mm.
is that after the elections he could have made a coalition with the Conservative Party to
Well,
shore up to get the majority in the House of Parliament, and then draft in one or two people because it's
well,
a coalition.
as I said, I think
But
he's
to say that he's going to parachute people in is just is it's just kicked some people in the nuts.
well, yeah. I mean, maybe he's hoping it'll just be a storm and then it will go away. I mean, the problem is, uh, probably overall, he's probably quite secure. And okay, but when you read online, people saying going to do this and they don't, and everything else, and people get fed up with jumping allegiances between parties and things like that. Um, Sometimes with politics, yes, you have to you have to hold steady. Is the old term that I've always been brought up with. Um, and yeah, I don't consider myself being affiliated. You can make your decision with some of the things I say, but I've been accused of being left wing and right wing in the same day by some people. So whether that says I'm flip flopping or whatever else you want to call it, I don't know. And I don't really care. I will put my ex in the right place on the day of the race, not before. Um, but the um, I think I understand a little bit what he's doing. Um, Now, with regards to other proposals he's made, about how we'd form a cabinet, I kind of agree that maybe politicians are not the always best people to head up departments. Yeah.
Right?
Um, I do agree with it. I mean, we at the moment we've got advisors who are all but pseudo leaders. And again, Rees-Mogg said this in his podcast yesterday. Yeah, he had a advisor whom he respects, yeah, a lot. Yeah. And he used to follow, but it's advice. They have their advisors. Well, in Brazil, we have the what we call the super ministers. And I'm not making a comparison directly between the UK and Brazil. It's a totally different system. And it's based on the American system. But yeah, I kind of think that maybe cut out this pseudo sort of thing where they've got advisors, maybe have an economist or an economist of now renown heading up Ministry of Finance. They got contacts and they know what they're doing. Um, it's what I keep it's as I keep saying. Ultimately, it doesn't matter who gets in, you're going to have to deal with the blob. And I think this is where maybe Farage talks about experience. You and I could win an election. Okay, we're standard reform candidates. We win an election in wherever we're winning them from. Yeah, okay, it's a bit difficult for us at the moment. And I haven't even entertained this. We could go into Parliament tomorrow. Yeah, we're green. Yeah, we're the banana syndrome. We're green and straight. Yeah, we're full of good intentions. Yeah, we're going to change the world between us. Okay. Yeah. And then we get there, and then you find there's so many rules, either official or unofficial, and traditions you have to adhere to. Yeah. And um, maybe a bit of experience to give words in the ear to other people, maybe of some help. I mean, Nadine Dorries has had her kicks as well. Yeah.
I
So,
tend to look at the by-elections
yeah.
this
Well,
year. Sorry, the last time,
mm,
and what Reform have been doing in their regions where they've won the by-elections, doing a Doge sort of thing,
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
where they're getting the list down of all the where all the money's been wasted. Now, if they didn't succumb to the blob, the little blob, which you get in all
Yeah. Yeah.
aspects of politics, and it appears to be that they're doing okay. At least I've not heard anything of the contrary,
Well, yeah.
right? And so if you're going to get a load of politicians who are used to giving into the blob,
Mm,
I think there needs to be new blood in
mm.
to say to the blob, blob off. You
Um,
know,
there need there needs to be a load of political fucks going, is what you're actually saying, in my opinion. Yeah. Um, or people blooded with business ideals who can work around people, who are not afraid. The trouble is, you have the civil service is basically a leftist organisation, from what I can tell and
there
experience,
you are. There you
and
are.
it's tied in with unions and everything else, and they'll destroy you. And
That's right.
um, until you can find a way to beat it. Now, the US is operates. I mean, Farage is trying to model things a little bit in the US and going to do this. You're not going to be able to do it. Okay, local level, you might be able to beat some things down. To do it on a high level thing where you are up against some very high ranking civil servants who are
Do you
seasoned at
mean
being nasty pieces of work.
do you mean like Trump is managing to do?
Yes.
Because all you've got to do is just not be afraid. Do what you think is the right thing,
Mm.
and just do it.
Well, admittedly,
And
Trump went with the system the last time he was in, thinking that people had good intentions, and he's used to a businessman where everybody's there going in the same direction, and I think it was a bit of a shock to him. Let
but that was
alone,
in that was within. Well, look, that was within his own party.
yeah,
And the thing is that the people in his own party were advising him to hire such and such a
yeah,
person.
exactly, yeah.
Right. Well, if Farage is going to let a lot of conservatives jump on board, he's going to get the same syndrome because he doesn't know who's who.
Mm. Well, I think he's been around long enough to do. I don't know how. I mean, what might happen? There might not be a good relationship with Nadine. He might be said, all right, to Nadine, you come in, and then there may be a falling out a bit later on, in which case he will then appear the hard man. Yeah,
And of course, it'll be too late.
maybe, maybe not. I mean, politics is a hard, dirty game.